he tells us something very important about the role of Madhavendra Puri in Sampradaya. He says that before the appearance of Madhavendra Puri, actually in this Sampradaya, there was no evidence of Prema Bhakti. This is something startling sometimes, you know. There was no evidence of Prema Bhakti in our Sampradaya until Madhavendra Puri came. Because it was he who introduced the idea of separation from Krishna, and it was he who introduced the idea of the conjugal mood of the gopis in devotion to Krishna. Before that, there was no evidence of it. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj also says a very important thing. He says that Madhavendra Puri was the first offshoot of the desire tree of divine love. He is the first offshoot. And he is the one who came out from the Madhva lineage to actually speak about the separation of Krishna. Prior to his appearance, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur declares there was no conjugal mood of devotion in the Madhva line. The feeling of separation from Krishna is known as Vipralamba Seva. And Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhagavatam, they tell us it is the only practice by which the spirit soul can achieve perfection. Material feelings of separation, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, when we are materially separated from each other, don't think that it is in the mood of bhakti. Very often when we are materially separated from each other, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says it gives rise to feelings of despondency. We feel materially down, and that reveals actually that we are very attached to each other. It's all on the material plane. No matter how elevated you say your relationship with someone is, if it is on the material plane, you will feel despondency in separation. But Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that despondency that results from feelings of separation from Krishna are actually the best proof of one's desire to bring pleasure to Krishna. And separation from Krishna actually brings pleasure to a devotee. It brings enthusiasm to a devotee. It doesn't make a devotee become unenthusiastic. So if we are thinking that we actually are feeling separation from Krishna, then actually we should be ecstatic, peaceful, tolerant, and very happy in our devotional service. If we are not feeling that, then we should not mistake that, oh, I'm feeling separation from Krishna, that's why I'm feeling very down. It is actually separation from matter. This is very, very important point here. The desire to please Krishna's senses was actually shown by Madhavendra Puri. And when he wanted to please Krishna's senses, he set the standard as an example for everyone to follow in order to serve the Lord. This is very important. And it is especially worth noting, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself and his closest associates later adopted this example of Madhavendra Puri and made it the standard in our Sampradaya. So please, this is very important that we should know where Madhavendra Puri actually stands. Very important. The greatness of Madhavendra Puri and what we can learn from him is given by Krishnadas Kaviraj Maharaj. And we should pay our respectful obeisances to him because he has given us some illumination on this great Acharya actually. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came one time in his travels to the very famous temple of Shirashore Gopinath, which is actually in Remuna in Orissa, Odisha. And there he, Nityananda Prabhu and all his eternal associates, they spent one night staying there. When Mahaprabhu entered that temple and he took darshan of Shirashore Gopinath, Chaitanya Charitamrita tells us that he actually put his head down, in front of the deity of Gopinath, and he paid obeisances to Gopinath. And the moment he paid obeisances to the deity, the flower that was on the helmet or the crown of the deity, it actually fell from the deity's head and it fell onto Mahaprabhu's head. So this is a confirmation, that Mahaprabhu and Shirashore Gopinath are actually non-different. So in that temple, Mahaprabhu sat down with Nityananda Prabhu and he narrated the wonderful pastime of his grand spiritual master. Because actually Madhavendra Puri was the initiating spiritual master of Ishwar Puri. And Ishwar Puri became the initiating spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's grand spiritual master was actually Madhavendra Puri. So now whatever he speaks is what we will hear now. So he says to Nityananda Prabhu and the eternal associates of the Lord that one time Madhavendra Puri traveled, all the way to Vrindavan Dham. And he traveled there because he wanted to come and take darshan of Govardhan Hill. So when he went to take darshan of Govardhan Hill, he became very mad in his ecstasy for love of Godhead. And he was rolling on the floor. He was lost because his senses were completely absorbed in remembering Krishna. He did not know day, he did not know night. Sometimes he stood up, sometimes he fell to the ground. He could not discriminate, whether he was in a proper place or not, because of his high level of purity. After circumambulating Govardhan Hill, he came to the Kund known as Govinda Kund, and there he sat down. It's very important for us to remember that Madhavendra Puri always remembered Krishna very much, in the mood of the Lord as Govinda. This is significant because Govinda means one who gives pleasure to the senses. And therefore, while Krishna is always giving pleasure to our senses, we should reciprocate with Krishna to always give pleasure for his senses. And we should be very careful not to perform devotional service in such a way that we are always looking out for our sense enjoyment ahead of Krishna. It's not what I want that is important. It is whether Jagannath wants it and whether he will accept my service that is important. We cannot be proud to think that what we do, will immediately be accepted by Krishna. That is up to Krishna. And that very often depends on the blessings of our spiritual masters. So Madhavendra Puri sat down at Govinda Kund, and there he started chanting the holy names of the Lord. By evening, he sat down under a tree, and while sitting down, he was fasting. Suddenly, from afar, one unknown cowherd boy, he started walking towards Madhavendra Puri. And Madhavendra Puri saw that he had a pot of milk. So he asked this boy, he was smiling and looking at this boy and wondering, where did the boy come from and why is he here? The boy himself smiled so much at Madhavendra Puri. And then he asked Madhavendra Puri this. He said, my dear Madhavendra Puri, what are you doing sitting down here under a tree? Why are you fasting and why you're not eating anything? I have brought you a pot of milk. Why don't you go around and beg some food if you don't have anything? Anyway, I have this pot of milk, you please drink it. Now, when Madhavendra Puri took darshan of the boy, Chaitanya Charitamrita tells us that he became very satisfied, very satisfied. This is one indication, that when we take darshan of the Lord, if our devotional service is pure and there's no motivation, just taking darshan of the Lord will give us satisfaction in our hearts. If even before the presence of the Lord we are disturbed, we are anxious, that means we still have to reflect on our motives, because our motives is interrupting our bhakti. The flow of bhakti is being interrupted by the flow of improper motives. Motives like envy, criticism, fault finding, they become the barrier between us and becoming peaceful when taking darshan of Jagannath. So when Madhavendra Puri looked at the boy, he became very satisfied. And he smiled, and he said, Prabhupada translates that actually even though Madhavendra Puri had not eaten anything, just by hearing the boy's sweet words and looking at him, his hunger and thirst just went away. And Prabhupada writes there, this is how Krishna reciprocated with Madhavendra Puri. Very nice point. So you see, when pure devotees are very dedicated to Krishna, then whatever needs that they have are automatically taken by the Lord. There's no need for anyone to feel worried that our income, our bank balance, our future is going to be in jeopardy. No, it is actually the experience of many devotees that the more we dedicate to Krishna, Krishna is like our personal ATM, He releases money when it is needed. He doesn't release money when it's not needed. So why are we so worried about these things? So Madhavendra Puri had full faith in Krishna. And so he asked this boy, who are you and where do you stay and how do you know I'm fasting and how is it that you got milk like that and it's already evening, so why are you here? So Madhavendra Puri, the boy said, sir, I'm actually a cowherd boy and I stay in the nearby village. And in the nearby village, no one fasts. So it's very important. Where Krishna is, no one is fasting actually because there's always prasadam. And so Krishna said that if anyone, is fasting, then I make sure that I bring them in some milk. This is a nice point. But then there's one point Prabhupada translates in the line that's really important. the boy, who's actually non-different from Krishna, he says, my dear Madhavendra Puri, if anyone doesn't ask anything, then I supply him with all eatables and everything. If anyone doesn't ask anything, then I supply him with everything. This is very important because this statement by the Lord is actually collaborated in the 4th canto, 20th chapter, 31st verse. 4:20:31. It's a very important verse for us to remember. In that verse, it is actually, I think, who is it? I think it's Prithu Maharaj. Yeah, it's Prithu Maharaj. Prithu Maharaj chants this beautiful prayer to Krishna. Tvanmayayadha jana isha khandito yad anyadashashtarithatmano abuddha yatachare balahitam pita swayam tata tvameva arhasina samihitum. The translation is very nice. Prithu Maharaj is addressing Krishna. My Lord, due to your illusory energy, all the living beings in this material world, we have forgotten our constitutional position. Because of illusory energy, we have forgotten who we are actually. We identify, with this body. And so out of ignorance, we are just running after the material happiness. And we think material happiness will be found in the form of friendship, society, and love in this material world. But now Prithu Maharaj says very nicely, please do not ask me to take some material benefit from you. In case Krishna says, what do you want? Please don't ask me to take some material benefit from you. But as a father, not waiting for the son's demand, the father does everything for the benefit of the son. Please bestow upon me whatever you think is best for me. This should be the prayer of a devotee. And Prabhupada writes so nicely in the Purport, it is the duty of the son to depend upon the father. How you depend on the father? Not by asking anything from him. That is not dependence. Actually, dependence means you depend on the father without asking anything from him. We have this material mistake of dependence. We think if I depend on someone, I must ask the person. No, it's a completely different opposite point. When you depend on someone, you don't ask anything from that person. Why? Because if you depend on someone and you ask something from that person, that means you don't have faith in the person. That's why you're asking. You don't have faith that they know what is better for you. That's why you're asking. But if you have full faith in Krishna, then you will not ask anything because you know that Krishna knows what to give you when. And Krishna knows what is best for you. Do you see the subtle but important difference? We are so conditioned to think that when we are dependent on someone, ask and ask and ask and ask. And then we say, I'm very sorry, but I'm dependent on you. But that is not dependence. Dependence means we are free in our mind to perform the devotional service. And we say, Krishna, whatever you think is right, you just bestow on me. Because I don't need to ask anything. Because you are the Father, you know me better than I know myself. That is true. And this was the mood of Madhavendra Puri. And this was the hint that Krishna gave. Krishna said, if someone doesn't ask, then I supply him everything. Madhavendra Puri didn't ask for anything. So Krishna came with a pot of milk. See? So this is a very important aspect of devotional service that we must remember. So then Madhavendra Puri said, the women saw you. And they said, this sadhu is here, but he's not eating anything. So then I decided I will go and milk the cows, get some milk for you, put it in the pot and give it to you. So he said, you take the milk, just drink it very nicely. Later I will come back and I'll take the pot from you. This is very interesting, isn't it? Krishna didn't say you can keep the pot. He said, you drink the milk, but give me back the pot. Right? So Madhavendra Puri was very happy. So he took the pot. The boy left suddenly, and Madhavendra Puri's heart was filled with wonder. In the night, he drank the milk. He washed the pot. He put it aside. See how compliant Madhavendra Puri was. Little boy said, keep the pot. He said, okay, I'll keep the pot. I'll wash it. And he sat down. And then what happened was he looked on the path, for the boy. But the boy never returned. So he thought, never mind, it's late. Why should the child be outside? But he could not sleep. So when he could not sleep, what did he do? He chanted. This is a very nice point. Sometimes we can't sleep because of so many things running in our head. Then we just lie down, or we turn on the TV, or we do this, do that. Here's a very nice example. Madhavendra Puri himself could not sleep. So it's not you who suffers from insomnia. Acharyas also cannot sleep sometimes. But the difference is, what do they do when they cannot sleep? He just continued chanting. He chanted until he dozed off. And in that dozing off, Madhavendra Puri had the first dream of Krishna. In that dream, it was such a nice dream. That same boy came to him. And the boy took his arm and led him into a bush in the jungle very close to Govinda Kund, near the base of Govardhan Hill. And then he told Madhavendra Puri, I reside in this bush. In the jungle there, I'm actually staying there. I suffer from the severe cold and the severe heat. In Vrindavan, the temperatures range, isn't it? Very cold or very hot. So the boy said, I suffer from severe heat, I suffer from severe cold. Sometimes the wind and the rain is too much. Madhavendra Puri, please bring the villagers. Dig me out from here and take me out here. Situate me nicely at the top of Govardhan Hill. Build a nice temple and install me there. Worship me very opulently and bring some bhoga offering for me, because no one has given me anything. I've been in the bush for so long. Wash me with large quantities of water. And please, because I'm very hot, my body is very heaty, you please, pour as much water as you can and cleanse my body. Many, many, many days I have been waiting for this day. And I've been wondering, when will Madhavendra Puri come? And when will he come to serve me? When Madhavendra Puri woke up from the dream, suddenly he realized that this boy is none other than Krishna. It is none other than Krishna. And one very important thing here is what he said in the dream. Krishna told Madhavendra Puri in the dream, every day I'm thinking, when will Madhavendra Puri come? And the Acharyas tell us this is the mood of Krishna. Krishna is not only always thinking of the Acharyas, but he thinks of all living entities all the time. Just like parents, how much we worry for children, only you as a parent know. You may be working, but if something has happened to your child, whole day you think of the child, isn't it? Krishna is like that. He's our Supreme Father. Whole day is thinking of our welfare. What is that verse? Pracheta sing it, 4th canto, 30th chapter, I think 34th verse. Namo Vishuddha Sadvaya, Hare Hari Medase, Vasudevaya Krishnasya, Prabhave Sarva Satvadam. I think it is 4. No, it's not 34. I think it's 24. 10 verse before that. 4:30, 24. Is it correct, Prakash Prabhu? Namo Vishuddha Sadvaya. 4:30, 24. It is, It is. Yeah. So you see in that verse, you will find, in the word-to-word transliteration, you will find the word Hare, Hari Medase. What's the word-to-word transliteration for that? Brain, isn't it? We never talk about Krishna having a brain. He's transcendental. But this is one of only 2 verses in the whole Bhagavatam where Krishna's brain is being referred to. And it says so nicely in that verse that Krishna is always using his brain and thinking of ways and means, of how to bring relief, distress, or to bring the living entities back to Krishna. This is the mood of the Lord. We may forget Krishna, but Krishna never forgets us. And that's what he wanted to reciprocate with Madhavendra Puri. So now, Krishna says in the dream, before that, Krishna said in the dream, I have accepted your service. This is very important. Due to your ecstatic love for me. Now, this principle of devotional service is important. When you make an offering to Jagannath, our prayer is that, Jagannath, you please accept the offering. When we sweep the floor for Jagannath, our prayer is, Jagannath, you please accept my service. We should not do the service thinking for granted. When I do the service, automatically Jagannath has no choice, he has to accept it. No. The choice is up to Jagannath. If our mood is critical, if our mood is fault-finding, if our mood is proud, Jagannath does not accept the service. It may look like you've put it there in front of him, but he doesn't accept it. Sometimes he takes us away from service because he wants to purify us, because we have become very puffed up. We think that we know everything. We think that we do this, we do that. But it's Jagannath's way to check us that actually we are not in charge of anything. It is only the Lord who is in charge of everything. That is why in this dream, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, very nicely Prabhupada translates that Madhavendra Puri is praying and Krishna is reciprocating. And Krishna says, I have accepted your service due to your ecstatic love for me. So if we really want Krishna to accept our service, we must really inspect what is our mood when we perform the service. Trinadapi sunichena. Are we humble as a blade of grass to think we are really unworthy? Madhavendra Puri thought that way. That's why Krishna appeared. And then Krishna said, install me up there, and I will appear and I will give audience to all the fallen souls. And now the boy declares in the dream, my name is Gopala. My name is Gopala. And I am actually the lifter of Govardhan Hill. I am the lifter of Govardhan Hill. My deity form was installed by the great grandson of Krishna, Vajra. If you read chapter 15 of the first canto, when the Pandavas are retiring in a timely fashion, Yudhishthira Maharaj does two things. He installs Parikshit Maharaj as the emperor of the world, and he installs Vajra, the great grandson of Krishna, as the king of Mathura. That's what he did. If you read it, you'll find there. So this same Vajra is actually the king who installed the deity of Gopal just after Krishna departed. And he himself was installed by Yudhishthira Maharaj. So now Krishna is giving evidence that who I am Gopala. I am Gopala. Then he says, but during the time of the invasion, when the non-believers came, they plundered the temples, and therefore my priests who are my devotees, they hid me in the bush. But after hiding me, they had to run away, and I'm now stuck here for years and years and years. So now Krishna disappeared, and Madhavendra Puri woke up. The moment he woke up, he actually lamented, because Chaitanya Charitamrita tells us that he lamented that Krishna was in front of me. That boy was actually Krishna, but I could not recognize him. I could not recognize him. Did Madhavendra Puri blame Krishna? No, he blamed himself. He said that it is because of the lack of my devotional service that I could not recognize when Krishna came in front of me. And now he became determined. This is very important. When we become determined in devotional service, we are not here or there. It is known in Bhagavad Gita as Dhrida Vrataha. We take a vow, that we are single-minded in the devotion of Krishna. And now he became very single-minded. And he said, let me fix my mind on executing the order of Gopala. That is the mood of a devotee. He is not motivated by anything else, and therefore his devotion is uninterrupted. And at that point of time, even though for a while it appeared as if Madhavendra Puri had forgotten and had not known who Krishna was, and he had become disturbed, Chaitanya Charitamrita tells us after that he became very tranquil, very peaceful. Sometimes we ask, in Bhagavatam, why for a while Arjuna was in separation from Krishna in the 15th chapter, and he was remembering Krishna, but he seemed disturbed. Why Parikshit Maharaj seemed a bit disturbed and put a garland of dead snake on Shamika Rishi? Why did he do that? And after he did that, how did he recover from that and become peaceful? This point is very important for us. And the answer is given very nicely in the first canto, 15th chapter, in 2 or 3 verses, starting from, I think, 28, 29, 30, 31. We don't have time to go through all of them, but whenever you have time, please look to these verses. Because these verses tell us the process that Madhavendra Puri and pure devotees go through, despite the challenges of this material world. In 1:15:28, we can at least look at that. In that one, very nicely, Shukadev Goswami says, Evam chintayato jishno Krishna pada saroruham sauhardena tigadena santasid vimala matihi. See the translation. Thus being deeply absorbed in thinking of the instructions of the Lord, just like Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri started meditating on the instruction of the Lord. We may not get instructions of the Lord directly, but our spiritual masters have given us instruction. Meditate on their instructions. The more deeply absorbed we become in meditating on the instructions of the Lord, which are always imparted to us in the intimacy of, in this case for Arjuna, friendship, and thinking very deeply about the lotus feet of Krishna, what happened to Arjuna? His mind became pacified and free from all material contamination. This is the formula whenever we are disturbed in this world. Become absorbed in the devotional service. Remember the instructions of the Lord, and the instructions take over. When we are thinking of everything else and everyone else, that's when we are disturbed. But when we are absorbed in the instructions of Krishna, our mind becomes pacified. Pacified is the same word that is used in Chaitanya Charitamrita to describe Madhavendra Puri's mind. Tranquil, peaceful. Therefore, disturbance of mind is a very good indication of where we stand in devotional service. Very good indication. We have to be very honest about this, Prabhus and Matajis. If our mind is constantly disturbed, don't blame externalities on the disturbance of the mind. It is an internal reflection of the state of our own devotional service. Something to be thought about. And look at 29. Vasudevangri anudhyana paribrimhita rauhasa bhaktya nirmattita sesha kashaya dishano arjunaha. The translation is very nice. Arjuna's constant remembrance of the lotus feet of Krishna rapidly increased his devotion. This is how a devotee's devotion can keep going up. Why? Constant remembrance. We don't have to worry. We can't gauge whether our devotion is going up. Like you cannot gauge how fast you're going when you're on a plane, isn't it? Isn't it true? When you're flying, you can know the speed. Very, very fast, you feel it. But once you're cruising, you can't feel it. As you're walking around, you have no idea the cruising speed is as fast as the speed on which you moved off. Sometimes even faster. And you look down, you think, hey, everything is going so slow. But it's not. Things are moving very fast. But we lack the faith, you see. And therefore we cannot see it. So Madhavendra Puri became very peaceful. But his devotion was increasingly, rapidly increasing. So these verses, they help us to understand the minds of the pure devotees. Please study them when you have time. Now Madhavendra Puri took his morning bath. He woke up from his dream. He went immediately to the village. He assembled all the people and he directed them to come to the clear path in the jungle. And then he told them, start cutting, start cutting. Something is in the bushes. And lo and behold, Krishna, just like he said in the dream, they found the beautiful deity of Gopala. Immediately they took out the deity and brought the deity up to Govardhan Hill. And immediately they set up a beautiful throne. And there itself, Madhavendra Puri, potent because of Krishna's empowerment, he immediately engaged so many brahmanas. Chaitanya Charitamrita tells us, brahmanas went to Govindakund and got 9 pots of Govindakund water. Then he engaged the whole village and they got 900 pots of water. And they kept pouring it on Gopala because he was very hot. Then he engaged more people to make sweetmeats. And then he personally came to the deity and he put oil massage on the deity. He made the deity of Gopala, the body of the deity, very glossy. Then he got Panchamrita bathing. Then he did wonderful abhishek. He gave ghee and water to the deities. He massaged scented oil on Gopala. And then he dressed him very nicely. And then he put sandalwood pulp on him because he was still very heaty. He put beautiful tulsi garland on him. He put the Vaijayanti flowers on him. He then offered incense, lamp, and all the offerings that we do to Jagannath. And on that day, the great installation ceremony of Gopala took place because of Madhavendra Puri. And once he installed him, he performed a great Annakuta ceremony. He got the whole village of Vrindavan engaged. And actually, if you look at our acharyas, it is Madhavendra Puri who started Food for Life. He is the one who started transcendental prasadam distribution. And he did it on a massive scale. In fact, you know how he did this? Because he did such an opulent worship, the word spread to all the neighboring villages of Mathura and Vrindavan. And then every head villager came and said, our village wants to sponsor the next feast. Sounds familiar, isn't it? Our village wants to sponsor the next feast. So Madhavendra Puri had to draw up a roster. Even in those days there was roster. And each day one village came. And each day they offered wonderful festival ceremony. And every day Madhavendra Puri would be there personally. And he would make sure everyone had a chance to offer something to Gopal. But Chaitanya Charitamrita says he did not eat anything for the day. Only at the end of the day, in the night, after Gopal had taken rest, he would take some milk preparation. And then he would continue to chant till the next morning. It is inconceivable for us, right? how the devotees can work this way. For us, 3 hours of working, Janmashtami, after that finish, isn't it? We all need one day just to rest. If we did some service yesterday, Sunday we are flat, isn't it? But see how Krishna gives the power, So then Madhavendra Puri, in this way, he engaged all the Vrajabhumi residents, and everyone became happy. And one day, after a week, Madhavendra Puri had his second dream. In this pastime, many dreams come, and this is his second dream. In the second dream, Gopala came to his dream again. And he said, Madhavendra Puri, I'm very happy with you, but I have one problem. My temperature is still very high. Not because I'm angry. Normally our temperature is high because we are angry. But temperature is high because I'm very hot. It's so hot. So please do one thing. The temperature has not gone down. Madhavendra Puri, you please go and bring some sandalwood. The sandalwood you got from Vrindavan, not high quality. Go to the Malaya province, which is in the southern part of India, and which is also found, sandalwood is also found in the eastern part, near the Bengal province. Go somewhere and get this sandalwood. This sandalwood from there is very rich sandalwood. It is very cooling. Bring it to me, pulp it, and put it over my body every day. If you bring this pulp, then put it on me very quickly, and I will become very cool. And then as a parting shot, he said, Madhavendra Puri, no one else can do this service. You please do it. Why did he say that? We must understand that Madhavendra Puri was very old, Prabhus and Matajis. Krishnadas Kaviraj Maharaj says that Madhavendra Puri at that time of the pastime was already well into his 90s. He had passed 80s and he was into his 90s. He was very old. But Krishna said, you have to go. You can't delegate it, you see. Otherwise, when we are older, what happens is we tend to say, I'm now older, Prabhu, I can't do this, I can't do that, I have to slowly wind down, if I do too much, I'll get heart attack, things like that, we are very afraid, But actually, old age is never a barrier for Krishna consciousness, never. If you have time, you look at 3-2-3, very easy to remember, 3-2-3. Maybe just 2 minutes we should look at that purport. If anybody is growing old, which I think everybody is, this is the purport for old age we have to keep reading every day. My Guru Maharaj said, as you grow older, you just put up this in front of you. Every morning read it before you go to work. And this is so nice, because here, if you look at the translation, Uddhava, Shukadev Goswami concentrates on Uddhava. Uddhava thus served the Lord continually from childhood. And in his old age, that attitude of service never slackened. See how nice it is. If we serve Krishna from childhood, our attitude of service will never slacken. That's why these children are here. We pray that their attitude of service will not slacken. And as soon as he was asked about the message of the Lord, he remembered all about him. Now you hear the purport. Transcendental service to the Lord is not mundane. The service attitude of the devotee gradually increases and never becomes slackened. Generally, in old age, a person is allowed retirement from mundane service. But in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is no retirement at all. On the contrary, the service attitude increases more and more with the progress of age. See? In the transcendental service, there is no satiation. Meaning we don't become, I cannot take it anymore. No. And therefore there is no retirement. Materially, when a man becomes tired by rendering service in his physical body, he is allowed retirement. But in transcendental service, there is no feeling of fatigue because it is spiritual service and is not on the bodily plane. So I asked my Guru Maharaj, but sometimes if I get a bit tired of service, Maharaj, and I want a break, what does it mean? Maharaj says it's obvious. It means actually you're not performing devotional service. It looks like it's service, but it is service to your senses, not service to the Lord's senses. That's why you're fatigued. And then see, service on the bodily plane dwindles as the body grows older, but the spirit is never old. And therefore on the spiritual plane, the service is never tiresome. Never complain about service. Never. If even in our dreams we complain about service, please know that reciprocally, the service is not accepted to the extent that you complain. It's very simple. It's very simple. And see the last paragraph. Uddhava undoubtedly became old, but that does not mean his spirit became old. His service attitude matured on the transcendental plane. And therefore, as soon as he was questioned by Vidura about Lord Krishna, he at once remembered his Lord by reference to the context and forgot himself on the physical plane. This is a sign of pure devotional service to the Lord. And that's why Gopal told Madhavendra Puri in the dream, you go and do this. Nobody else should do this. Madhavendra Puri woke up to the second dream. And what did he do? Chaitanya Charitamrita says he became very glad. He didn't say, oh Krishna, I did so much already. Now does he want me to move again? No, he became very glad. And what did he do? In ecstasy, he immediately organized next day. He said, I have to leave now for service. He got a few brahmanas. And then he initiated many devotees into the Krishna consciousness movement so that they could all do service. He initiated them so that they could all be trained and they could all do nice service. In fact, Chaitanya Charitamrita says some brahmanas came from Bengal, and at that time when they came from Bengal, he preached to them and he also made them pujaris. So long before, in iskcon, you have all this transmigration, isn't it? Devotee sends you passport and say, Prabhu, is there any chance for pujari service in Singapore? Well, it happened in Madhavendra Puri's time. So not only did he start Food for Life, he started this transmigration of devotees from temple to temple. Amazing, isn't it? Such a what's the word? He was ahead of his time. That's all he was. He was a visionary. So Madhavendra Puri organized worship very nicely. And then he started traveling east towards Bengal. He went through Shantipur and he met Advaita Acharya. And they had many discussions about Krishna. Advaita Acharya became so happy and ecstatic with Madhavendra Puri that he begged him for initiation. And Madhavendra Puri initiated him. And from there he went to Remuna. He passed by Remuna, and there in the same temple where Mahaprabhu is telling this pastime, he came to this temple and he saw the divine form of Gopinath. When he walked in, he looked at the form of Gopinath and he was very, very ecstatic. He stood at the corridor of the temple and did not come in. He was just very content to see Krishna from there. And he chanted and he danced. Then he chanted and danced some more and he sat down. And then he saw a Brahmana bringing 12 earthen pots. And he was curious now. So he turned to the Brahmana and said, what are all these? And Brahmana said, don't you know, this temple is very famous for transcendental kheer, Amrita Keli. Very, very wonderful condensed rice with milk. Very, very sweet. All the three worlds cannot compare to this offering that is given to Krishna. It's very, very nice. So then when he said that, he said, every day we bring 12 earthen pots filled with this Amrita Keli. How many of you have been to Gopinath temple? And you have tasted this wonderful Amrita Keli? It's so nice, isn't it? It's so wonderful. They give you in these earthen pots, you break it, and if you can eat the clay also, you will take it. Why? Because the thick Amrita Keli is actually on the clay also, right? So what happened? Madhavendra Puri, saw this, and then suddenly he had a desire. He had a desire. Because the Brahmana said, nowhere in the world is this kind of condensed rice and milk and kheer offered. And as the offering was just about to start, the plate was put there, haven't started offering, Madhavendra Puri suddenly had a thought. If without my asking a little sweet rice is given to me, I can then taste it. I will know how to make it, and I'll make a similar preparation for Gopal. Those who cook well for Krishna, I'm sure sometimes you find, that when you taste something, you immediately want to know what it is, isn't it? Not because you want it for yourself, but you actually want it for Gopinath or for Krishna. So actually, Madhavendra Puri had that mood. He became excited. Maybe I should find out if no one, without my asking. He said without my asking because he was thinking if Krishna wants. That's another way of saying if Krishna wants. If Krishna wants, a little sweet rice will be given to me, and then I can taste it. But the moment he said that, he became greatly ashamed. Why? Because it had not been offered yet. And he thought, how can I desire something which has not been offered to the Lord yet? It's a great challenge, isn't it? When you make a nice plate, of bhoga and you want to bring it up to the altar, you have to suspend the smell, you have to suspend your thoughts, because the moment you think, oh my God, this is really nice, you have taken the offering already. It's very dangerous. It's a big challenge actually. So Madhavendra Puri felt ashamed. He felt very ashamed because he thought, how can I do this? Before the Lord had taken, I had done this. So immediately he started chanting Krishna's names. And immediately, he thought, I don't deserve to taste this. And so when the arati began and completed, he quietly left. He walked away. He offered obeisances and he left without saying anything to anyone, with deep repentance in his heart. He went to a simple marketplace. It was very quiet. And he sat down and he chanted Krishna's names and he dozed off. That's it. So you see the genuine humility of Madhavendra Puri. He did not think, I am Acharya, I can think like this, what is wrong, Krishna knows. No. Sometimes, we must be very careful as we take on devotional service not to think we are above the rules and regulations. No. No one is above rules and regulations. Pure devotees are setting the example. How can we dilute the intensity of the rules and regulations which actually are meant to purify us? We should be very careful about that. Very careful. So then what happened? He went to sleep. And as he went to sleep, in the marketplace, the pujari meanwhile had taken out all the earthen pots in the temple, put them away, closed the curtain for Krishna, locked it, everything, went to sleep just outside the temple. And now Pujari had a dream. Amazing, huh? Third dream. Now Pujari had a dream. In the dream, Gopinath, the deity, came out and touched him on the shoulder and said, wake up, wake up, wake up. Go to the door of the temple. Open now, my deity, the curtains, and find one earthen pot. Out of 12, one earthen pot I have hidden. It is just behind my dhoti actually. And it's behind the cloth curtain. I want you to take that pot and I want you to bring it to Madhavendra Puri because he's a great devotee of mine and he desired to taste it and he's not got a chance. So the Brahmana in the dream, thought, who are you? Really, Lord? How can it be that there is one earthen pot inside? I remember taking 12. And Krishna says very nicely, you did not see it because of my tricks. Very simple. You did not see it because of my tricks. And Prabhupada writes an extensive purport here. What did Krishna do? He stole his own prasad. That's what he did. He actually stole his own prasad. Prasad meant for him, it went down, he stole one. But he didn't steal it for himself. He stole it for the pleasure of his pure devotee. And Prabhupada writes, in the material world, stealing is criminal. And no one will ever tell someone I stole something. But in the transcendental world, when Krishna steals, the whole world knows. It is open knowledge to everyone when the Lord indulges in transcendentally criminal behavior. Because anything that the Lord does is never criminal. Never criminal. That doesn't mean, pujaris, you can steal anything. But the Lord can steal everything. He can steal anything he wants. And he stole it for the pleasure of the devotee. This is such a wonderful point. And Krishna is so powerful, you may think you took 12 earthen pots out. But it is an illusion created by Krishna. Actually, only took 11, but you counted wrongly. And one he kept. So the priest woke up thinking, really, it's true. He opened the door, he opened the cloth curtain, Gopinath was standing there, just behind his foot, lo and behold, the 12th earthen pot was there. The priest couldn't believe it. He thought, he was not so much astounded by the Lord. He was very astounded, no doubt. But he was thinking, who is this Madhavendra Puri for whom the Lord can steal his own prasad and give it to him? So he ran to the marketplace with the earthen pot and he shouted, Madhavendra Puri, who are you? You are the most fortunate man in the world because the Lord has stolen his own prasad for you. Madhavendra Puri woke up because someone called his name and said, what is it? He said, this is what has happened. And when he narrated the pastime, Madhavendra Puri was ecstatic. Tears came to his eyes because he thought himself unworthy of what Krishna had done for him. And so he took the little pot and he relished the Amrita Keli. The desire of a pure devotee never goes unfulfilled. If a pure devotee desires that you should have prema bhakti, somehow or another, Prabhus and Matajis, you're going to get it. That's why we must please the pure devotees. Because if they want something, Krishna by hook or by crook, in this case by crook, he will give it. He will give it. And that's what he did. And Chaitanya Charitamrita says that Madhavendra Puri relished the Amrita Keli so much that he broke the pot and he licked every single corner, and then he ate the clay from the pot also. I don't know whether you all have done that, not sure whether you can, but he did that because everything coming from Krishna is so wonderful. So after he ate that and he broke the pot, right, some parts of the clay where there was Amrita Keli, he ate it, and whatever there was balance, he tied it up, washed it, cleaned it, and kept it on the side cloth, and he carried it with him. That's how much he valued it. And so he was very ecstatic, the priest was very ecstatic, and the story spread. But Madhavendra Puri ran away from the marketplace in the morning. Because a great Vaishnava, Prabhupada says, he has one ornament, humility, but he has another ornament that follows humility, good reputation. Good reputation. A Vaishnava is so powerful that very often before he reaches a particular place, his reputation reaches there. That is the mark of a great Vaishnava. Somehow or another, people always hear about great devotees. You can't hide them, you can't bury them. Somehow or another, even rascals and ruffians become attracted to great devotees, like the Goswamis. The Goswamis attracted ruffians in Vrindavan, they attracted pure devotees in Vrindavan. They are like that. So Madhavendra Puri knew his reputation will go ahead, and that reputation is Krishna. My Guru Maharaj said, the reputation of a devotee is actually Krishna. Because Krishna is so happy with that devotee that he goes forward. Prabhave sarva sadvatam. He goes forward to increase and expand the influence of his devotee. But others become envious of such devotees. They think that devotee is doing his reputational thing. But no, it is Krishna. It is Krishna. Because Krishna is so happy with that devotee. So sometimes when some devotee is doing very nicely and we hear about that devotee, we have to be very careful not to be envious of them. Because they are known because of Krishna's blessing. If Krishna wants them to be known in the form of reputation, we should bow our heads before such devotees and not be subtly envious of them, you see. This is a very important point for us to note. So Madhavendra Puri left the marketplace and he went all the way to Jagannath because he was focused on getting sandalwood, not on his reputation. But by the time he reached Jagannath Puri, his reputation had reached. And everybody came out and did ecstatic kirtan and welcomed him and garlanded him, but he was not interested. He assembled all the priests and told all of them, now Gopala in Vrindavan needs sandalwood. And Jagannath Puri, even at that time, very organized. But Prabhupada writes there that they had to get permission from government officials to get more sandalwood. Even at that time, there was all this red tape, But somehow they managed to get all the sandalwood. And they managed to get camphor also. And Madhavendra Puri carried a big load all on his own. All on his own. It's not easy to carry that. Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavat tells us he carried 82 pounds of sandalwood. 82 pounds of sandalwood. That's not easy for a person who's 80, 90 years old. 82 pounds of sandalwood and 8 ounces. Very little camphor, but sandalwood was a lot. And in those days, he had to pass through tax collection centers, no MRT, no Grab, nothing, He just had to walk. But Madhavendra Puri was happy. He just decided, next morning when he got enough sandalwood, he just packed it all and he was ready to go. But in that night, he had the final dream. One more dream. And then we end our pastime. In that dream, Madhavendra Puri heard Gopal. Gopal from Vrindavan came to Madhavendra Puri in the dream. And he said, Madhavendra Puri, I have news for you. Whatever sandalwood you collected, which is now in front of you, I have received it. I have received it. It's all there already. This is a very nice point. The sandalwood was in front of Madhavendra Puri, but Gopala had received it. How did he receive it? He received it on the platform of pure devotional service of Madhavendra Puri to Gopal. Gopala didn't need sandalwood. Krishna has all. Krishna created sandalwood. He doesn't need any service from us. But when he sees we are trying so hard for him, then he takes it. He accepts it. And so Gopal told him, I've received everything. You do one thing. You are now, you just go to Shirashore Gopinath, because Madhavendra Puri was going to go there anyway. You go there. Once you are there, you grind the sandalwood and you put it on Gopinath. Put it on Gopinath. When you put it on Gopinath, I will receive it in Vrindavan. I'll become cool. You just do that. So Madhavendra Puri got up, and then he quickly went to Gopinath, and there he met the priest, and he said, this sandalwood is for Gopinath, and when we do it for Gopinath, Gopala will get it. He didn't have to go all the way back, He just had to do that. Because whether Jagannath is here or Jagannath is in Puri, Jagannath is Jagannath. We do not have to be in Puri to take darshan of Jagannath. Jagannath is here. Whatever we give, whatever we offer with love, Jagannath accepts here. And when he accepts it here, whatever time it is in Puri, he also accepts it. If we offer whatever we can to Radha and Krishna, in Vrindavan they have accepted it. In the spiritual world they have accepted it. Why? There is no concept of time in the spiritual dimension. Please remember that. There is no concept of time. Time folds in the spiritual dimension. Whatever you put here comes to Puri automatically. Because in that dealing, everything is transcendental. Time is not a factor. This is how we understand the principle of time in Bhagavatam in this pastime. It's very important for us to remember that. And so now, Madhavendra Puri then stayed in Shirashore Gopinath. And there he considered himself very fortunate. And after many months, he gradually made his way back to Gopala. And there he saw that Gopala had become very cool. Temperature significantly reduced because of the wonderful activities of Madhavendra Puri. Jai Madhavendra Puri ki. So from this pastime, some things we can understand. Krishna considered how much trouble his devotee would have to go through to carry the sandalwood. And so Krishna decided, why to trouble him? See how considerate Krishna is. We also must be considerate to devotees. We must consider how they feel. My Guru Maharaj always said, you must put yourself in the shoe of the other person. And that is even what the Bible and the commandments tell us. Treat others, treat your neighbor as you would treat yourself. Krishna was so considerate that he was mindful that Madhavendra Puri was old. Yes, Madhavendra Puri was ready. But Krishna, out of love, thought, why you should go somewhere? This is the loving nature of Krishna. And we should also understand the other point. The wonderful pastime, this wonderful pastime is premised on one thing. It's all about stealing actually. This pastime is actually about stealing. Krishna stole an earthen pot of condensed milk for the pleasure of Madhavendra Puri. Because before Krishna stole, Madhavendra Puri had also become a thief. He had stolen the heart of Krishna. And he had stolen the heart of Krishna so wonderfully that Krishna had to steal something in return and give it to him. And so this pastime, when you look at it very carefully, you'll realize that actually this pastime is really about how devotee and the Lord reciprocate. That is the beautiful point of this pastime. Madhavendra Puri, before he left this world, he was very old. Ishwar Puri and Ramchandra Puri were serving him. Ramchandra Puri was his disciple, was very critical. And at one point, Madhavendra Puri chanted that wonderful verse where Radharani describes her separation from Krishna. And Chaitanya Charitamrita tells us that when Radharani chanted that verse, only two people could understand the meaning of that verse. Radharani and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And after Madhavendra Puri chanted that verse, only three people could understand that verse. Radharani, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Madhavendra Puri. Nobody else can understand that verse. And that verse that he chanted is so nice. O my Lord, O my most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O my most beloved one, what shall I do now? This is Radharani actually chanting this prayer when she was in separation from Krishna. And when Madhavendra Puri chanted this prayer, until then, the whole of this Madhva Sampradaya had never heard of separation, never emphasized separation, until this prayer was chanted. So he took this prayer from the spiritual world and he gave it to us. And that ripened fruit that Madhavendra Puri took, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took it, churned it, chewed it, gave it down parampara, and today this fruit, is so mature because of the merciful glance and the merciful instructions of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Sri Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki, Jai Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Maharaj ki, Jai Sri Sri Madhavendra Puri ki, Nitai Gaura Premanande. Are there any questions, any comments that you have? Maybe 2-3 minutes, we can answer them. I'll just pass you the mic if anyone wants to ask. Yes, Prakash Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Prabhu, you said before Madhavendra Puri, in the parampara, there was no prema bhakti.
No emphasis on prema bhakti. Yeah.
So, there are other lines of the parampara coming down from Madhvacharya who are not through Madhavendra Puri. There are Udupi Vaishnavas and so on. So, there is no emphasis on prema.
No. The conjugal love of prema bhakti is not there. It's very interesting, but Prabhupada writes that. So this idea of conjugal love of the gopis is emphasized after Madhavendra Puri. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur confirms it, Bhakti Vinod Thakur also confirms it. So if you go even till today to Udupi and all, you'll find that the ras there is Krishna as a boy. It is not the conjugal mode, of separation. It is service, but the emphasis on separation from Krishna is not so much emphasized. This separation comes very much from Madhavendra Puri. That's why he is considered very important in the juncture of our sampradaya, even within our sampradaya. Is that helpful, Prabhu? Yes, Mataji.
Why did Krishna take Avatar as a child baby in certain parts of India, not all parts of India, the southern part, he take as a baby form.
Yes.
And as what you said just now, Udupi,
Yes.
also a baby form.
Yes.
Why he took that kind of form?
Nice point. Why is it that sometimes Krishna takes this form of a little boy, or like a child? Like Udupi Krishna is a bit young. You look at the Vallabhacharya Sampradaya in Gujarat, you'll find that Krishna is Balagopal, Laddu Gopal. That there is no specific reason why in some places Krishna comes like that. Just like Mataji, why did Jagannath choose to come to Puri, you see? Very often the transcendental reason why Krishna comes in a particular rasa is because the devotees there desire to worship him in that rasa. So Krishna is so kind that whatever form that you want to worship him in, if you desire to worship Krishna in the form of a child, Krishna will make all arrangements to present himself as a child. So for example, Yashoda Mata saw Krishna as a boy, and in her eyes her son never grew up. So even when Krishna became a king and many years went by and he was not in Vrindavan, when he did come back and Yashoda Mata saw him, Bhagavatam tells us Yashoda Mata did not see Krishna as a young man. In her eyes, she only saw him as a boy. So it is very nicely stated that each one of us, will have an inclination. Some of us are more inclined towards the Lord in his form as Ram. Some of us are very inclined to see Krishna in the form of Nrsimhadev. Some of us feel that we can relate to Krishna in the form of a young boy. So according to that, where there are many devotees who want to worship and that mood is strong, Krishna presents himself as a transcendental boy. And that's why in different sampradayas, Krishna is worshipped in different moods actually. I hope that's useful, Mataji. So according to your desire, Krishna will reciprocate. Ye yata mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamiyaham. Okay? Thank you. Thank you very much for your time, Prabhus and Matajis. Let us all remember this wonderful pastime of Madhavendra Puri. Let us remember his mood of intense humility and his mood of accepting service and how he viewed, his devotional service to Krishna. And in that way, we pray to Madhavendra Puri that our devotional service will also improve. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Srila Gurudev ki. So I think we'll leave in the usual way, right? Do you know what's Prabhu? Okay.